Hello, everybody. Welcome to Political Football on this just absolutely celebratory day in the United States. My name is Dave. I'm here with Scott. We are fired up. We are absolutely fired up because, according to Adam Schefter, the Baltimore Ravens have offered a deal to Odell Beckham Jr. Scott, thoughts?
Is that real?
Yes, according to Schefter. Was it Schefter? Oh, maybe it wasn't Schefter. It was somebody. It was
okay. Well,
it was one of them.
That's interesting. Baltimore is one of those teams that's kind of a linchpin of. I didn't think we were going to start this way.
We are not. We are not actually starting this way. Nice try though.
Linchpin of it all, like
he's the Michael Cohen of the Ravens offense.
Let's go.
All right. So, first of all, we are part of the Matty Ice Media Network. Go to matticemedia.com. We've got merch. There's other great podcasts over there as well. But yeah, it's a huge day. Donald Trump last week got indicted, and today he was arraigned, which means he did get arrested for the first time ever, I believe. Which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Scott, what are some of your what was your initial thought when you found out he was actually getting indicted and that this whole thing was going to happen?
So, I think it's more ignorance than anything on my part. Like, I don't know. I mean, I understand the process of indicting him, and but I don't know in the end what it means, and it's just because we're not there yet. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm not really. I don't know what to. I guess I don't really know what to think of it because I still don't expect anything to come of it. I just don't. I understand that there's a process, and maybe that's just pessimistic thinking. I don't know. I kind of think it's a little sad, to be honest, and not necessarily for him, because I don't know that he deserves those feelings from just average dude, right? But it's our country. I mean, we are so incredibly divided. And it makes me sad for my kids and just generally just where we are. It just, I just think it's a really sad day that this is a step you have to take. And it's not you have to do this.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I don't think there's going to be a day in the rest of his life that's not spent fighting some sort of court thing that's going on with everything that's happening. So,
yeah.
There's. What do you think? I'm interested in your thoughts.
So there's a lot of talk.
I see your name, so I think we're good.
Yeah, for the audio listeners, my name here on YouTube is Throw the Book at him. And that kind of goes to my first point here, which there's been a lot of talk about how indicting Donald Trump shows that the criminal justice works because no one is above the law. And on the one hand, I see where they're coming from with that. But on the other hand, this dude has allegedly been committing crimes for decades, and he's like 76. This is the first time he's getting arrested.
Yeah.
He's got how many accusations of sexual assault and shady real estate deals allegedly and all sorts of other things. But this is the first, although I don't think this will be the last time, but it's the first time he's finally getting indicted, being arrested, being investigated to this level.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, you've got the Georgia investigation happening. You've got the Mar-a-Lago investigation happening. You have the January 6th investigation happening. There's a rape case going on. I'm sure there are others that I'm forgetting about.
You left out the New York Attorney General.
Yeah. But I don't know if that's a criminal case.
It's civil
against his organization, but still it's a legal proceeding against him. But his history is, So this is just, I guess, this is where I'm at with it. Is like we have some people here who celebrate things like today, and then there's another side who it's a little bit like some of the impeachment stuff where if we just look at circular logic, and it's if you just kind of do the whole circle, like the impeachment is a sham and you cannot prove anything, and then because the impeachment is a sham, I'm not going to give you the material that you need to prove your case because it's a sham kind of. And it's like, so if you believe this whole thing is like the words, whatever he uses, a witch hunt or a hoax or all those things, if you believe those things, then it doesn't matter what he does, because it will ultimately all come down to, no matter who it is, no matter which judge it is, no matter who the jury members are, they're going to get attacked. People are going to accuse them of selectively prosecuting Donald Trump. To me, it's mind blowing, but that's where we are. So,
there was an editorial in the New York Times, I believe, where there was just some amazing whataboutism, and I don't know who wrote it. Whoever wrote it was like, "This is a slippery slope because now in the future, any former public official that breaks the law can be indicted." That's a paraphrase, but it's like, yeah, that's a feature, not a bug.
It's the Jim Carrey movie, Liar, Liar, where the criminal's on the phone and he answers the phone and just yells at him, "Stop breaking the law, asshole!" Like,
yeah,
just knock it off. But like you're saying, this is just what he's done for so long that I mean, I don't know if you saw Donald Trump Jr. today after the hearing, threw the judge's daughter's picture up on Truth Social.
I did not see that. That's obviously terrible, and maybe it could be a criminal act itself. Could get a gag order put on them pretty fast.
I don't know, because she is over. She is not. It's not like she's a young girl.
Yeah,
but it's still intimidating. It's asking for violence against the judge's family.
Yeah.
These are just, and I don't understand. And this is something we've talked about on our show multiple times. The evangelical support for him and his family is confusing to me, and it will always be. These are not good people. This. I mean, I don't know if you saw the interview with Marjorie Taylor Greene today, but she compared him to. I'm blanking on his name, but Nelson Mandela and Jesus. She did. I mean, and she was trying to make the point that there's been a lot of amazing people throughout history who have been persecuted by awful governments, and he's just another in the string of righteous men to be prosecuted for their righteousness. And it's just like,
didn't Republicans classify Nelson Mandela as a terrorist? Didn't they vote for the resolution to do that or something like that?
Maybe in another life, but it just was mind blowing. Like, she actually believes this. Yeah.
I don't give them enough credit. I think a lot of these folks are just arguing in bad faith, and she doesn't believe any of that. She just sees this the quickest path to power. Now, a couple other things about this. So Trump is being indicted on 34 counts related to paying Stormy Daniels money to keep their affair quiet during the end of the 2016 presidential campaign. Michael Cohen, his former lawyer and fixer, already went to prison for his role in this crime. Cohen actually paid the money to Stormy Daniels. It was reimbursed by the Trump organization.
Yes. Over a long period of time.
Yeah.
In which they then wrote the money that they used off as tax. There's some tax fraud. There's some other kinds of fraud happening. But the thing that is super interesting in it is that Trump's Attorney General, Bill Barr, put Michael Cohen in jail for this crime.
Yes, but then he also ordered that was to be at the end of the investigation, and that's why DOJ never pursued it further.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that Trump's own Attorney General, I mean, Bill Barr might be one of the most despicable characters in American history. And I say that thinking about a lot of despicable characters. The crime that Michael Cohen committed is the exact same thing that Donald Trump is being accused of, and Trump's DOJ put him in jail for what he did. So it's not like Trump can't argue that it didn't happen.
Yes.
They put Cohen in jail for it.
Right. It's at whose direction was it under? And I believe I saw that there's at least one conspiracy count in here.
Yes. Yeah.
And I saw them mention 2 women, which means the Kara McDougal story is included in this. Like it's all wrapped up together into one.
There's also the doorman story about the supposed child that he had fathered, and they paid the doorman $30,000 to make that go away too. So it's there's just a lot. But the conspiracy thing is interesting. Like, what was this conspiring to in the process of the election? Like, is
right,
that
exactly
the conspiracy is over? Yeah.
Right. So he conspired with David Pecker, the head of the National Enquirer, and Michael Cohen to work together to catch and kill and pay off these stories in service of it not doing harm to his ability to win the election. It's the general. I'm not a lawyer, but that's like the general sense of what.
So in generalized, the amounts that they spent was too much. You can't spend that much money. They view those as
no. It's not that it's too much. They didn't disclose it. They didn't disclose it as campaign finance expenditures.
Even if they did, it went over the line of what they could spend on that on that kind of a contribution. If you want to,
you could only bribe the women you're having affairs with up to $25,000. Is that the
whatever the number is? But it was too much money. So it's one of the things that I think they were trying to hide, and that's why they spread out the payments the way they did, because they were trying to keep it under a certain number.
Yeah,
especially the $130,000 part of it. But still, it's like.
So can that be structuring as well, or can you only structure for like putting money in a bank?
Good question. I don't know.
We need to get a lawyer. We need to get a lawyer on the phone.
We need some help.
Yeah,
it's crazy. It's a crazy start to an end. I don't know if that makes sense, but I know he's leading as far as. Okay, so somebody's much more intelligent than I am, and I know that's setting a very low bar.
Yeah,
Don't agree with me.
I'm sorry. No, you should not be so hard on yourself.
No, it is. When it comes to a lot of these things, I don't have a clue. What was Alex saying? Was that the amount?
Alex, Alex said exactly, Scott. That makes it a misdemeanor that concealed a crime, therefore a felony. Okay. So basically. Yeah, if you commit a misdemeanor in the effort to cover up another crime, the misdemeanor becomes a felony, at least in New York State, apparently. So, and Alex is a Giants fan, so I'm sure he knows at least a little bit about New York State.
I'm sure. Didn't he grow up there?
Well, I wasn't going to dox him like that.
Oh, I'm sorry, but there's a little story there. So
his address is actually no.
No, it's
Social Security number in the comments.
I know some people who are from New York and have been there, and these stories about Donald Trump are like just part of the normal. It's just like everybody knows it. Like, you don't want to do any electrical work for any Trump related projects because you're not going to get paid, kind of thing. Like, it's a very common thing. So, I don't know.
Yeah, last thing I want to say on this before we are actually going to review the AFC West. The AFC West is getting pushed down pushed down here, but that's okay. That works out just fine. So as far as I know, Trump is facing 3 other investigations, but I think it's actually more than that. But the 3 that I recalled from memory was the New York Attorney General about Trump allegedly altering the stated value of his assets to fit his needs.
Yep.
One from the Fulton County DA in Atlanta about Trump calling state officials, trying to convince them to overturn the election results. The quote, "I only need 11,780 more votes." That thing. Yep. And then finally, a special counsel investigation to Trump allegedly stealing government secrets and lying about it and then not returning them.
Yep. And there's also, I know there's the January 6th investigation, and there's also the rape case, the Jean Carroll rape case, which now becomes fascinating to me because I could be wrong, but they may have his DNA from his arraignment today. Whatever that means.
I don't know. So the only place I saw anybody talk about them getting his DNA today was a post from the Daily Show. But what it was Ron Wood is hosting, and he said that if they get Trump's DNA, they're going to clear half their backlog. Which is a great joke. And everybody should watch The Daily Show if Ron Wood is hosting. That dude is hilarious.
Yeah.
Ben does say it's worth mentioning that the biggest political story of the day is the state Supreme Court election in Wisconsin. Huge implications. That's true. It's like a very reasonable woman is running for judge, and then an absolutely batshit crazy person is running against her, and it's going to come down to like 30 votes.
And yes, that's a huge one. But today there was also a three-judge panel that rejected Trump's claim of privilege. So
yes.
in another case,
well, that's pretty easy because Trump doesn't have executive privilege. He's not the president.
In a different time, that may not have gone this way. But it just feels like there's so much happening. I'm missing one. There's something else. Oh, it's the Fox and the Dominion stuff. That's not really going well for Fox.
No, and because if that goes to court, all those Fox hosts are going to be called in to testify in open court, and they are not going to lie to the judge.
No, they're going to save themselves for sure.
No, none of them are going to take the years. None of them will lie to a judge. They will just take their millions.
It's how much money is Fox going to lose in this situation?
Not enough.
It's a little bit like the Hulk Hogan and Gawker media, makes me wonder what's going to happen in the end for Fox.
Yeah, the best thing for Fox, to happen to Fox from our point of view, would be just the absolute exposure of all these people at Fox as total hypocrites and frauds. Yeah. Not even necessarily to change the hearts and minds of their viewers, but for their viewers to finally see through all of these people. I mean, Hannity, Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, they're all full of shit. They don't like Trump according to their own text messages. Yeah. Right. It's just getting them all exposed would be fantastic.
It would. And, in some ways getting people to recognize that it's propaganda and they know it's propaganda.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just.
Yeah. Right. They're lying to their audience. They think their audience is stupid. They're treating their audience like it's stupid. Yeah. And while I don't watch Fox News and don't think anybody should watch Fox News, I think that by and large, the Fox News audience is just everyday people who started watching a Republican news network and are now just being spoon-fed party propaganda like it's 1984. And it happened so fast that they don't even realize that it happened. Yeah. I have more respect for the Fox News audience than Sean Hannity does.
Yeah, but for him, it's just dollars.
Right.
It's a way. I think some of the texting and some of the messaging back and forth has been, hey, the bottom line is the bottom line, and we have to pay attention to that. This isn't good for our stock price.
Right. And and so hopefully then once people see that, they can just be done with this network. And either the network will have to just go full Newsmax, which will cause it to lose a ton of mainstream advertisers and whatever. Or
so you have much more hope for the future than I do, because I don't think that people are going to see through any of it.
I think that what could happen here, though. Well, they don't need a ton. They only need 5% of Fox's audience to abandon them, and that's it, right? That'll undercut everything that they're trying to do. So what would be best is if, Alex is saying here, that when this documents case comes out against Trump, the party finally dumps Trump, the Fox News decides to moderate a bit, which means they just put on normally crazy people.
Yeah.
Right. Instead of full on line full of it crazy people, and then go back to trying to
Sidney Powell in the election.
I actually thought about trying to book Sidney Powell, because I think if we told her that she'd just come on here and tell her side of the story, she would just fly on and do it.
She probably would.
But I also think that the people who like her are potentially violent.
Yeah.
And I don't even want them to even know who I am.
No, well, there is a level of it. We saw what happened when she was allowed to present her case. We saw the outcome of that.
We'd have her come on with you and I would just change my name to Cleve.
Yeah, he'd love that. How is he?
He's doing fine. He'll be back here. He'll be back for the draft at least. But yeah, could you imagine though, some crazy Sidney Powell fan rolls up on Cleve thinking that it's me? It just gets an absolute whooping.
Yeah, that would be he's funny.
Paul said she'd want an appearance fee.
Yeah, good luck. She's not.
Yeah. Okay. I don't really know how to transition from this to the AFC West, other than to say that Donald Trump has a lot of problems, and I don't see any way he's going to get out of it anytime soon, which is a great way to start talking about the Denver Broncos.
That is that's well done.
So let me pull up my magical document that I always have here. Hang on.
Yeah.
There we are. Producing the show during the show. Maybe once we get up to 50 subscribers, I'll splurge for a producer.
You are versatile.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Oh, I know what I didn't do.
So Denver,
1 second, everybody.
Well, we can just talk briefly about Denver.
We're going to start talking about the Denver Broncos. You first.
Well, I thought, the Russell Wilson trade, I think just sometimes, there's a narrative that just gets set out there, and it was, all right, Denver's now obviously in a very tough division, but Denver should have a great season just simply because of a quarterback change. And it's a good roster, good enough. It should have been a good enough offense that you would have thought that things would have gone well. But in hindsight, was the head coach a good fit for Russell Wilson's style as a player? And was the personnel, and even now going forward, does the personnel match him? And I don't know. I mean, when I think of Russell Wilson, I think of like improving and making plays happen outside the structure. And forcing him to be a pocket passer it's just not smart. And then looking at Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick and Jerry Jeudy and, I'm missing one. I'm sure.
KJ Hamler, Albert Akui-Bunum.
Yeah.
Greg Dulcich.
They have
Javonte Williams.
And the Javonte Williams injury was a big deal. So it's just like in hindsight, we could have maybe saw through what we were like. At least I'll just speak for myself. I thought they were going to be a good team challenging other teams in the AFC West. And I was very wrong.
I thought they would finish third in this division, but I also thought everybody in this division could threaten for the playoffs.
Yeah.
The thing is that Nathaniel Hackett was the Packers offensive coordinator for Rodgers' 2 MVP seasons. Yep. And Rodgers makes plays outside the structure all the time. So I don't think there'd be any reason to think that couldn't be something they would do,
Right. So that's why I'm saying, does the skill, like going forward, does the skill players they have, are those guys just not a fit? Like when plays break down, some players and quarterbacks together just make stuff happen. Mm-hmm. Like when you think about Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Or,
Russell Wilson and Doug Baldwin.
Or Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, or those guys who just worked for him. I don't know if Jerry Jeudy is that guy. I don't know if those are. I mean, I don't know if I even know that what I'm saying is valid. I'm just saying we should be thinking about it. Like, are they a fit for what Russell Wilson does?
Yeah, so I think their situation might be even deeper than that, and I'll get to that here in a second. So 2021 record, 5-12, fourth in the AFC West. Their Vegas win total was 10. So to only achieve half your win total is terrible. If your win total is only 4, if you only win 2 games, that's still really bad.
Yeah.
Clay predicted they would win 9 games this year, so he was in line with Vegas, but way over on what ended up happening. But honestly, all 3 of us would have been.
Yeah.
So this is kind of getting to what I was saying. They traded massive capital and players to Seattle for Russell Wilson, and we at the time declared that trade a massive win for the Broncos.
I know.
And now in the hindsight, it's like, wow, you got robbed by Pete Carroll.
And yeah, and that pick turns out to be the 5th pick.
Yeah.
In this draft.
Yeah. Russ was terrible. They hired Packers offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett as head coach. Got to be a top 5 all-time bad head coach hire.
Well, I remember talking about it at the time that it felt like it was bait for Aaron Rodgers.
Yep.
And it didn't work out. And it didn't work out. And it was just a horrific fit. It was.
Urban Meyer's number 1. The second time Adam Gase got a head coaching job is number 2.
With the Jets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he was so clearly terrible with Miami.
Yes. Quarterback killer.
Yeah. Is there some other awful retread who got a second job for no reason? Because like Patricia only got 1 head coaching job. Like if he got hired as a head coach again.
I mean, it stuns me that he got hired as an offensive coordinator last year.
That's pretty bad.
I mean, yeah. No, I can't think of another.
Yeah. So really, Urban Meyer and Adam Gase
coordinator that would work.
But as a coach, as a head coach,
no, I don't remember one.
Am I missing? Was there another gimmick head coach at some point? I don't remember, but that's the point. It's really bad, and it probably is top 5 for all-time bad hires.
And it's sort of your example that you can be a good coordinator and a terrible head coach.
I think most coordinators are good coordinators and terrible head coaches.
That is probably very accurate, yeah.
I think there's fewer good head coaches than there are good quarterbacks. So getting both of them makes you an instant contender.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's no team that has a good coach and a good quarterback and is not in the playoff and not in playoff contention.
Very true.
Yeah. Heck, you can have average at both. You can have like 11th best quarterback Trevor Lawrence and 9th best coach Doug Peterson, and all of a sudden you're good again.
Yeah, quickly.
Dan Campbell and Jared Goff.
Oh.
Right. Like you just need to have a decent coach and a decent enough quarterback, and you're not. Right. But you get Matt Nagy in there, and all of a sudden it's a disaster no matter who your quarterback is. Yeah. Okay. Alex is saying that Joe Judge was a terrible hire. He's hired by the Giants. And that's true, because from being a special teams coordinator for the Patriots to being a head coach. Yeah. However, many people, including Alex, were hyped on Joe Judge because of his football guyness and all that. I have receipts, Alex.
Oh, we cannot play that game because
right. But what I'm saying is that in hindsight, though, I do agree that Joe Judge hire was terrible.
Yes. And he will never get another look as a head coach.
No, that was pretty bad. Paul said, "I mean Petrino or Lou Holtz." I forgot Lou Holtz coached in the NFL, so that's probably a bad hire. Bobby Petrino.
Yeah, I don't remember that, but Petrino for sure. Yeah.
Was Petrino a bad hire or just kind of a bad guy? Who bounced?
It could be both.
Yeah. So
I still remember the neck brace and the come on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he quit to take the Arkansas job, but just posted a note on the lockers for the Atlanta Falcons.
See ya.
Yeah. That's pretty bad. Running back Javonte Williams tore his ACL early in the season, and apparently that was a pretty complex injury. He's still not recovering the way you would think.
So inside that building is some skepticism about whether he'll ever be the same again.
Yeah.
He survived just barely enough on his. So I guess the best way to put it is that his athleticism it got him just by when you combine it with his balance and power. Mm-hmm. And if you lose a little bit of that athleticism, the balance and power is just not enough. And there's concern that he is not going to come back. Certainly, the expectation is for him not to return early to form, and that if he does, it's you're looking at maybe the halfway point of the season if he does. But there's some skepticism that he may never, which is incredible because he was such an electric prospect.
Yep. So in a dynasty league that I'm in, I actually traded Javonte Williams for Kyle Pitts. What do you think of that trade?
Is that a trade that you made with me?
It is.
Yeah. I'm not going to comment on that. I'm just not. I can't.
I mean, you got more than Javonte Williams. I'm just saying he was part of it. I did not know his injury was that bad.
It's pretty. It sounds like it's pretty rough. They signed a free agent running back, correct?
Samaje Perine.
Yeah, and I would expect them to draft one.
I think they're likely to draft one.
Yeah.
Feels we'll get to the draft capital, but depending on where they pick, feels like a Zach Charbonnet spot.
Perfect player.
Yep. Defense was actually pretty good, though they did trade away Bradley Chubb to Miami midseason. Big news for the offseason, they hired Sean Payton as their new head coach. Cap room, $10 million. Draft capital, none in the first 2 rounds, 2 total in the top 100. Charbonnet won't be there unless they trade up.
Yeah. Charbonnet's an interesting thing. He's at Michigan and they bulked him up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he looked big and a little bit slow, not slow, but lumbering. And then he goes to UCLA and it's like, this dude's a baller. He can play. So I think he's going to be a mid-second to late second round kind of player.
I agree.
In the 50 to 60 range.
I agree. He played well. He played well at Michigan as well.
He did.
But I'm concerned about the UCLA thing. This is actually unfair. But Chip Kelly has had a lot of bust running backs in the NFL. But they're all a lot slighter than Charbonnet. LaMichael James.
Yep. He was tiny.
Yeah. Who's the other one? Who am I missing?
Chip Kelly, Notre Dame.
No, Oregon.
Oregon.
I know I'm missing one, but that's the point. Like Kenyon Barner.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm missing one there. Alex saying that Pac-12 defenses help Zach Charbonnet. Playing running back for Chip Kelly is a good move in college football. You're going to run for a ton of yards.
Yeah, but they slimmed him down and he looked a lot more explosive.
Yes, and he caught some passes as well. He's a good prospect, and he'd be good here.
A really good NFL prospect because he's big.
He'd be a great fit for the Broncos, but they're not going to be able to get him. So the question is, are they stuck with Russ at QB, or they are stuck with Russ at QB for at least one more year? Probably 2. So what can they do to make him better, Scott?
Well, I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Find yourself a good head coach. Sean Payton is that.
Mm-hmm.
And my expectation is that they're going to tailor something around the things that, one, Russell Wilson likes to do, and the things that, 2, the team can do. So he might want to improvise and do all these things, but that doesn't mean that the team could do that last year. Mm-hmm. It was obvious that they were very dysfunctional on offense. But right. I think Peyton is smart enough to figure out exactly what to do, generally speaking, as a scheme with their offense to make things go. So do I know exactly what that is? No. I would think that extending plays and letting him make plays with his feet is smart, and getting him in sync with his skill position players is very smart. That's the way I would approach it. Sean Payton's significantly smarter than, especially on offense. He's a very smart dude. So I would expect them to look much better, and maybe even a little more simple, if that makes sense. Tighten it up a little bit.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And and it kind of, I think it relates to what I was getting to earlier about the issue being a little bit deeper for them. I think last year was an awful workplace environment.
Clearly.
Russ had an office and like nobody could reach him without going through his people. And he's doing high knees on the airplane while everybody's trying to sleep on the way to London. And then the coach
and he had his own staff in there.
Yeah, he had his own staff. It's clear that Nathaniel Hackett had no control of the situation and wasn't that great at coaching football at the same time.
Yeah.
And like, honestly, if I were Jerry Jeudy, I'd be like, what is even like, what is the point of this? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know.
We're hearing some rumblings about some trades happening. Like I could see them. And that's kind of where I'm at with it is like, maybe Jeudy just doesn't fit with Russell Wilson.
I think that nobody could fit last year with that awful environment. See, Sean Payton's going to come in. Russ's staff is out.
Yep.
Russ doesn't have an office. He's in the locker room.
Yep.
If Sean Payton's getting those numbers, like he's not calling somebody else to get in touch with Russ. It'll be like, and you better answer within 2 rings. You know what I mean? Like Sean Payton is not playing any of this stuff. This is a Bill Parcells guy. Like he is not putting up with this.
No.
And I think just having a coach who has a demonstrated record and will get Russell Wilson kind of under control, because Russ isn't out of control like he's a jerk necessarily.
No, he's just odd.
Yes. I mean, that oddness is okay until it starts really negatively impacting the team around him since he's such an important position. I think Peyton just gets that under control, and that in and of itself could just, like how this team was last year was so below what their floor should have been.
Yeah.
Like they could easily be an 8-win team just from like getting rid of the nonsense.
And they should be. And, I think one of the things that listening to ex-players and ex-teammates of his is they see through the bullshit with him, like immediately. Like, this stuff is nonsense. And like my own personal interactions with him is odd. It's Senior Bowl related. And I'll tell you, he was supremely aware of where the cameras were and when they were on and when they were not. Mm-hmm. And when they were on, he was a very friendly person. He was smiling and, all of it.
Yeah.
And then when the cameras went off, wow, like the switch went off.
Yeah.
And it was just like, that's odd.
Yeah.
So I watched him and Kirk Cousins throw a session of just throwing. And they couldn't have been more opposites in terms of personality. It was just so interesting to see Wilson turn it on and then turn it off and become a guy who was just very friendly, turn into like a kind of a jackass like that.
That's a red flag too, just in general, like in life.
Yeah, it was odd. It was like this is a weird dude, and I think that's kind of where that team was with him. Like he shows up. And he's pulling that stuff off, and they don't know how to process any of it. And the coach can't control any of it, and it just spins. And, there you go.
Alex giving me grief.
David tried to trade everybody.
So here's the thing. I did try to trade you Russell Wilson and Jeudy and Sutton together as a package. And the thing, Alex, is that if you take a look at your roster, Russell Wilson would be your 4th youngest player. So,
Dave and I have something working right now. And I think I'm going to get violated badly again, but I'm going to keep going to that well. Whatever.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I think
it's not that bad for you.
No, it's not that bad in general. You love Jahmyr Gibbs, and you're in love with Jahmyr Gibbs, and I'm infatuated with Jahmyr Gibbs.
I am in love with Bijan Robinson.
Yeah, but so is everybody.
I just want to have an affair with Jahmyr Gibbs. I can't believe I just said that.
Okay. So Bijan is Melania, Jahmyr Gibbs is Stormy Daniels.
Yeah, but I'm not paying $130,000 for it.
I will delete this episode right now for $130,000. Have your lawyers contact my lawyers.
You're getting Justin Fields. I think it's fair. I know you love him.
I do love Justin Fields.
This one's sideways. I apologize.
Yeah. We'll figure out what we're gonna do there. Okay, so that's the Broncos. Now we have about 20 minutes to get through 3 teams.
I'm gonna be quiet for 5 minutes.
I don't think there's too much to say about this next team right now. I think this next team is more interesting for their preview coming up in August than for right now. Oh, the Broncos draft class. Nick Benito, nothing. Greg Dulcich is good. Damari Mathis. I'm not seeing anybody here besides Dulcich who really impacted this year.
Moving on.
Yep. That's a lot of picks to mess up too.
But like Benito's a good player, but it's the last pick in round 2. You know, like Dulcich is a good player, and that's good. They got a nice value there.
Yep.
Nice.
We have the Chokeland Raiders. 6-11, third in the AFC West. The Vegas win total was 8.5. Cleve's win total for the Raiders was 14.
Yep. He was.
I don't remember if he loved Devontae Adams or Josh McDaniels or the combination of them. There was some reason.
Was it possible that had just shaken out and he was still glowing?
No, they got Devontae Adams in March. We did this in July.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I wanted to give him some sort of benefit of the doubt, but I guess you can't.
I don't. I should have just gone back and listened to this episode to figure this out. All right. So 2022 season, predictably, trading a lot of capital for a 29-year-old wide receiver when you do not have much else is not going to get it done against Herbert and Mahomes.
Correct.
Josh Jacobs smashing his contract year, leading the NFL in rushing. Did not see that coming.
No.
Notice, though, that they had the NFL's leading rusher and went 6-11.
Yep. Not all that valuable to have the NFL's leading rusher and nothing else.
Right.
Doesn't help much.
Exactly.
I know where you're going with this.
Devontae Adams had a good season, but disappeared for some games.
Yeah.
And the Raiders lost to Jeff Saturday. Yep. And the Raiders lost to Jeff Saturday.
Well, that'll be a trivia question one day.
Who's the only team to lose to Jeff Saturday?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he won't get another shot either.
If the Colts had hired Jeff Saturday as permanent head coach, would that have been worse than the Joe Judge hire?
Yes.
Worse than everything but Meyer?
Yeah, because the Meyer thing, we could do a whole show. He's such he's just not a good person. I'm sorry, he's just not. So it wasn't difficult to see that failing.
Correct. Raiders picked up apparently Bobby Hoying today. He better be ready. He better be game ready when Jimmy G does the Samuel Jackson unbreakable impression. I think he means Brian Hoyer.
He does. And Jimmy G is a pretty brittle dude.
He is. And so I would not have Brian Hoyer as my backup.
No.
Behind Jimmy G. Cap room coming into the offseason, $20 million. Draft capital, they have the 7th overall, 3 in the top 100. Questions, because again, I wrote these a few weeks ago now. What did they do at the quarterback position? They signed Jimmy G to a 3-year, $65 million deal, but it's really like a 2-year deal, right?
It's a great deal because it's like it'll get you enough production-ish where you're okay there, but there's nothing blocking them from taking a quarterback this year.
Yeah.
Let's say they love somebody, like one of them falls to 7. There's no reason that you can't take them. You take them. Garoppolo's not blocking anybody. He's just not. I know bringing on Hoyer makes it look like they're done there, and they maybe are this year, but it doesn't. You're not blocked. It's not like they paid him $150 million and are tied to him for multiple years. They're just not.
So you and I are of the same opinion that it's okay to take use high picks on quarterbacks back-to-back years.
Yes. But
most people are not, like especially NFL people. If they take a quarterback at 7 this year, they can't take one. Like Mark Davis will never go for taking another one next year, right? So would they be better served taking a top cornerback or something like that and keeping themselves in the market to draft one next year?
I think they would be, but that assumes that they don't love one of them falling to them this year. And also, I know that we like to talk a year, and so I'm gonna throw a shot at myself in this situation.
Okay.
A year ago, I was talking about Will Anderson like he was the best pass rusher in college football.
Right, when he was the second best, but that's okay.
whatever it was. This year, I'm telling you that I think he has serious bust potential because he's limited as a player in some ways. So and I know other NFL people feel the same way, like they do. Caleb Williams is not in the draft process, so he doesn't have the microscope on him yet. Drake May has flaws, serious flaws in his game. So everybody talking about how next year is this great year for quarterbacks ignores the reality that when next year rolls around, we're going to pick apart these guys, and maybe it's just Caleb Williams and the rest of them are meh. So I think teams understand that a little bit. And let's say, if the Raiders love Will Levis, there's no reason they shouldn't take him at 7 and let him, develop for a little bit of time. I mean, you have a year to do that. I don't think that's a smart move at all because I don't like Will Levis, and I'm not sure that he's ever going to be, anything more, even if he hits, than a middling quarterback. But the Raiders did lose Darren Waller and Foster Moreau, so they could play Will Levis at tight end. They could. It's a good thought.
All is not lost. Do they franchise Josh Jacobs after turning down his 5th-year option? Yes. Same thing, same problem that Daniel Jones had. Turned down the 5th-year option, then he got to tag him because he played so well.
Yep, cost him some money.
They did. Do they trade Darren Waller? Yes. Traded to the New York Giants. Yeah. What can they do to be truly competitive in this division within 2 years? Probably not draft Will Levis.
Nothing. I don't know that there's any way they're competing with the Chargers and if we think the Broncos are, no.
What's up, Emmanuel? We're doing good. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't see, like, Mahomes and Herbert are so far ahead of Jimmy G. And Jimmy G was winning games competitive for San Francisco. But the Brock Purdy thing was awful for him because Brock Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant and ripped off like 10 straight wins, which means that might not be the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Garoppolo is sort of like just a guy, Yeah. And they paid him that way. I mean, we talked a little bit a couple weeks ago about needing a middle class, quarterback compensation kind of thing. And there you go. That's kind of what it is.
Yeah. Raiders draft class. Dylan Parham played. He was the first pick was the 3rd round. Was a good pick out of Memphis. Zamir White, Zeus White out of Georgia, running back, like never got on the field at all. I mean, I guess Josh Jacobs did lead the NFL in rushing, but I mean, I don't know that Zeus is going to field
in the draft. I thought he was a really good prospect.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like the point. Like you can find interior offensive linemen in that range of the draft pretty much every year.
Yeah.
And guys who will come in and start right away and play at a reasonable level for you.
Yep.
Thayer Mumford was a interesting player. A developmental player. I like Britton Brown, but if Zamir White can't get carries, Brown's not gonna.
I like Thayer Mumford too because he was like a matador for Aiden Hutchinson.
He did get abused.
Yeah, he was like a 5th round pick before the Michigan Ohio State game.
Yeah.
But he could still develop. He's he's got great size. Yeah. All right, 2nd place team in the division this year.
Oh boy.
Would be the Los Angeles Chargers. Poor Jake. All right, 2022 record. 10-7, second in the AFC West. Lost to Jacksonville, LOL, at home, LOL, in the wild card round after blowing a 27-0 first half lead.
Yeah. Joe Lombardi strikes.
I just like, on the one hand, I loved it because it's always fun to be able to laugh at Jake a little bit. On the other hand, I felt really bad for him and for Chargers fans in general.
Yeah.
This feels kind of like a cursed franchise, but like a good curse. Like the Lions are a bad cursed franchise. This feels like a good cursed franchise.
They have such a talented roster, and it's just so tell me if I'm wrong, but they lost Joey Bosa last year.
Yep.
Injury. They lost can't remember his name, the second-year tackle, Rashawn Slater. And those guys they lost early. And it's just they are just an injury factory. They always have injuries. Yeah. That's the
Joe Lombardi is
like
Joe Lombardi is truly terrible. So they had a ton of injuries last year, but most of those players were back in health. I mean, Slater wasn't, but they were like ready to go by that playoff game. They had 27-0 lead.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, like you can think of their the big free agent they signed, the corner from New England, Josh Jackson. Is it Josh Jackson? JC Jackson, whatever. JC
Jackson.
Yeah. Like he was like a non-factor last year. And some injuries played there, but like I love that roster, and it's just at some point you hope that they get over, but like Keenan Allen's getting older now.
But you know what's funny is that they performed how they were supposed to. Vegas win total was 10.5. Cleve said 11. They won 10 games.
Yeah,
they were actually in line with expectation, but it felt like a failure. Not just because how they lost that playoff game, but it just felt like. And so they got swept by Kansas City, which means they have no chance of winning the division. Yeah. Herbert hurt his ribs in week 2 against Kansas City and was still injured when they lost 38-10 to Jacksonville at home in week 2, which I'd actually forgotten they got demolished by Jacksonville earlier in the year, but it's because Herbert was hurt. Eckler was running back 1 in fantasy again, which is an amazing campaign for him. But man, when it goes, it's going to go fast.
Oh yeah, just like it does for all of them.
Yep. Head coach Brandon Staley played Mike Williams in a meaningless Week 18 game. Big Mike got hurt and missed the playoff game.
Yep. Yeah, and he does. Staley, as for all of his aggressiveness, it's just sometimes it feels like it's too much. Yeah. Like playing Mike Williams in a meaningless game. Like,
there's no need for that.
What are you doing?
Yeah. Made the playoffs. Probably wish they didn't. Fired Joe Lombardi. Hired Kellen Moore. I love the hire.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good hire. He needs to. I mean, I think there are trends with Kellen Moore and the things that clearly teams figured out some of the things that Dallas like to do. But he's a good coach. He's, I think he's a smart guy. He's significantly better coach than Lombardi is.
Yeah, but one of the things Dallas liked to do against Kellen Moore's riches was give a fullback 15 touches in a game.
Do you mean Zeke Elliott?
I do. Yeah. Do they have another fullback on the team? Who else am I talking about?
Yeah.
And I don't think that Brandon Staley will force Kellen Moore to get 15 touches to an Aldi cashier going forward.
No, you would think that he would just sort of like, hey, here's the keys to the offense. Go.
Yes. Also, I placed a bet Jahmyr Gibbs drafted to the Chargers.
That would be super exciting.
You would win the trade.
Potentially. I don't know that Gibbs is ever going to be a traditional between the tackles guy. I just think he's more of a – I'm not trying to diminish our trade here, but I don't think he is I think he is a fantasy weapon and a very potent one because of catching the ball out of the backfield more than as a runner.
Yeah.
Whatever that's – I don't think he's capable of playing the Austin Eckler role and, and getting that many carries traditionally. I don't want to
get into this too much because we're up against it.
Yeah.
But we don't know if Jahmyr Gibbs can play the same at 210 as he has at 199. But if he can, then he can. And now we're talking. Right? Because Alvin Kamara is like 215. Yeah. If Gibbs can play like this at 210, he's Alvin Kamara all over again.
Yeah, and he has every capability of being that. It's just, monitor the workload.
Cap room, negative $20 million. Draft capital, 21st overall, 3 in the top 100. Scott, I have a draft inside scoop for you.
Is it a receiver?
It is.
Yeah.
You might already know this, but I'm proud of this.
I don't know this.
Jordan Addison originally committed to Maryland.
Yep.
He flipped his commitment to Pitt because the Maryland wide receivers coach went to Pitt. That coach is now the wide receivers coach for the Chargers.
He would be a perfect fit in that offense. Perfect fit.
If Jordan Addison's on the board when they pick, they're taking Jordan Addison.
Yeah. Perfect fit.
Yeah. See, that's the sort of inside information you could only get on Twitter and have repeated to you here on Political Football.
Hey, it's great because I'm thinking Jalen Hyatt or Jackson Smith and Jigba, although there's just no way he's there.
JSN's not going to be there.
Yeah, no way. But they need somebody like that, and Addison's perfect, and I think he will be there for them. He'd be a very nice fit for them. The
difference between Addison and Hyatt is that Addison doesn't suck, so I think they'd be much better off taking Joshua Addison.
Okay. Take that, Jalen Hyatt.
Jalen Hyatt could be good. But he'll be like
though at times too. It's just like
he'll be like the next form of MVS. Like he's not.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Will Cullimore allow Justin Herbert to throw the ball down the field?
Yes.
Okay. Austin Eckler has requested a trade, but they're not going to trade him, are they?
I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't know if they want to pay him, and that this is not an organization that likes to pay when they don't have to. So I could see them just like, we'll take the rookie, we'll take Gibbs, whatever. We just don't want to pay Austin Eckler the money that he thinks he deserves.
Can the Chargers
they're a cheap organization, but they're a cheap organization.
Can the Chargers offensive line hold up in a punishing approach? Yes, their offensive line is awesome. Their offensive line can do whatever.
Yeah, they may be more of a team that needs to run some zone. They're more of a zone running team than, I think what the question is, are they just going to grind it? Just ground and pound you? And no, I don't think that's what they really want to do.
Natron Means is not walking through that door.
No.
Marion Butts is not walking through that door.
Rashawn Johnson could be.
But Ronnie Harmon could be.
Yeah.
Can this team stay healthy one time so we can see what they can do?
I would love for that to happen.
All right, their draft. Zion Johnson, first round pick. Good pick.
Very good pick.
I don't like necessarily taking a guard at that position, but it was a position of need. They smashed it, of course, because they always smash the first round picks.
He was so ready, though. Like there were no questions about his game. He was ready to roll, and he'll play at a high level for a long time.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing JT Woods do too much, but I just may not have seen him out there. Isaiah Spiller's a bust already.
It's possible. I mean,
he's a bust. He wasn't getting touches. They were giving touches to Kalen Ballage
in that offense last year. But who got the touches aside from Eckler?
Kalen Ballage, Josh Kelly, and Elmer Fudd. I mean, it doesn't matter. The point is that it's not Isaiah Spiller.
Yeah, and it wasn't last. Yeah, I mean, it's possible he could just be not. He may not be it. He certainly would be a player that they would be relying on if they're not bringing back Eckler, even if they were to draft a player like Gibbs. Yeah. Somebody needs to handle the heavier work. Spiller can do that.
And the only other thing I see here on this is 7th round pick. They took Xander Horvath, a fullback out of Purdue. So maybe they will have to give a fullback 15 touches in a game.
Maybe.
All right, last team here.
They've done it before.
Last team here. The Kansas City Chiefs. 14-3, first in the AFC West, won the Super Bowl. Is that any good?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It is. Vegas win total 10.5. Cleveland said 10. So they were both under on what the Chiefs would do this year. I mean, 14-3 is pretty impressive.
In that division too. Yeah.
Yeah. Won the Super Bowl. Mahomes won MVP. The Chiefs lost to the Colts in week 3. They lost to Matt Ryan.
Yeah.
Well, you can't panic. If you lose one bad game during the year, you cannot panic.
No, one's fine.
Yeah.
Kind of expect it.
Yeah. 2 could even be okay depending on circumstance.
Yeah.
But yeah, it can happen to anybody. Cap room in the offseason, $13 million. Draft capital, 31st overall, 3 in the top 100. Their only wide receivers under contract are Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore. How do they address this? Did they sign anybody?
I don't recall them signing anybody, but I could see DeAndre Hopkins ending up there.
They re-signed Justin Watson.
Yeah.
But
they lost Mecole Hardman. I know that.
Yes, they lost Mecole Hardman to the Jets. I really don't see them getting DeAndre Hopkins. I don't see them, like, if you were going to do that, just sign Tyreek. Like, if you're going to pay an older receiver $30 million, then just pay the one you had, who's better.
There's different players, and there was a little bit of this with Tyreek Hill, that Tyreek Hill's presence on the field didn't force, it's the wrong word, but Mahomes would want to get a little out of control with plays to let things develop and make big plays with Hill down the field. And it was frustrating for the offense because they were going outside the structure of what they were trying to do. And we all looked at that and thought, that's a nuts thing to be thinking and doing. But they won the Super Bowl with essentially nobody's at receiver because their offense is that good. So Hopkins, I don't think, is a player who's remotely threatening teams with speed. It's more he's going to move the chains with the sideline work and physicality, contested catch stuff. It's just what do you have to give up for him? And it's just an idea. I don't know.
He'd have to give up a fourth this year and a sixth next year. It ain't gonna be that much. Nothing. It's more what you have to pay him. And I don't see I see the Chiefs making the mistake of signing Zeke Elliott before they make the mistake of trading for DeAndre Hopkins. Not that I think Hopkins is bad. Like, Hopkins would be a great addition on the field for the team, but it would take over from so many other areas they need to address.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, they would have to pay him. That's for sure.
I obviously had another question there that I forgot to type. At this point, who the hell remembers?
It was a while ago.
It was a while ago. Chiefs draft class. Trent McDuffie. He played.
He did. Karlaftis played.
Karlaftis is a player.
Moore, he is a player. Sky Moore didn't do anything.
He didn't, but he is one of the 2 wide receivers on the team right now.
Yeah, and you would expect him to kind of emerge. Leo Chenal, very good prospect. He played.
Yep.
I don't know what Brian Cook did. I would be curious to see what he did. But then you've got, round 7, Isaiah Pacheco, kind of proving your point that, you don't need to spend early capital on these guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine taking Najee Harris in the first round. You get Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th. Okay. Couldn't be me.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not much to say about the Chiefs because they won the Super Bowl and they're set at quarterback and they're set at coach, and it's just minor changes going forward.
They just do smart things. Like, I know we got to go, but like Trey Smith 3 years ago in the draft, dude is falling in the draft because he had like blood clot issues when he was 15 or something like that. And it's like, it's round 4 and I'm thinking, draft Trey Smith. He's just a monster. And, they got him in round 5.
Alex says the Chiefs should take Ronnie Bell late. I like Ronnie Bell. I'm not sure he's the best fit there. You know who I'd love to see go to the Chiefs with like a 2nd, 3rd round pick? Marvin Mims.
Yeah.
Out of Oklahoma. Not just because he's on my team, but because I think Marvin Mims would be a great fit in Kansas City.
Yeah, he would be. And nice vertical option there.
The worst thing you can say about Marvin Mims is he's Denzel Mims' brother.
I love Denzel Mims coming out.
I did too, but he is a no-show. Denzel Mims is like a really, really, really bad Brashad Pyramid. Saying something. All right. So that's the AFC West. That concludes the division reviews. You can go back and listen over the last few weeks for all the division reviews. If you're listening on audio, thank you. There's also a YouTube live stream. Look at the show notes. There's a link. You can subscribe to the YouTube page, like the videos, and get notifications for when we go live in the future. Over the next couple weeks, we'll be hopefully discussing some news around maybe Aaron Rodgers to the Jets, Lamar Jackson to the Lions or Colts or somebody.
Jeff Simmons to the Lions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably not a great locker room presence, but good at football. You're talking about the defensive lineman, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a little three-way trade action potentially happening there that's super interesting.
Are you breaking news here?
I'm not breaking news, but it is legit being talked about. It's like Tennessee's trying to get up to pick 3, but doesn't really have the capital or desire to give up all the capital that they would require. So they would come to 6 with the Lions and then jump from 6 to 3. So Arizona would end up with the 6th pick. Tennessee would end up with the 3rd pick. Arizona would get picks 48 from Detroit and maybe a 3rd rounder from Detroit kind of thing. And Detroit would end up with pick 11 and Jeff Simmons. They don't want to pay Jeff Simmons.
That's not terrible. I wouldn't.
Well, it's not the worst thing. I mean, if you look at where the Lions are, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, that would not. I wouldn't hate that. Who do the Titans? So sorry, we have to for real quick.
Yeah,
the Titans trading up to 3 would be interesting because if we assume that Stroud and Young are going to go 1 and 2, the Titans are obviously moving up for quarterback.
I was told they want C.J. Stroud.
Well, he's not going to be there. He's going to Carolina.
Maybe, but I don't think he'll go. I don't think he'll go to Houston at 2 because of David Mugaletta's presence, his agent. So if Bryce Young is the pick at 1, then maybe that's a trade that happens. But it's not going to happen until the day of the draft. So, but foundation being laid there for that kind of a deal if and when player is available that Tennessee likes.
I was going to say, because Tennessee is not trading up for Richardson after how much the coach hates Malik Willis.
No, it's for one specific player, and it is being talked about. It's just how do the Lions fit in Simmons and the idea of Simmons and pick 11 and pick 18 is super intriguing.
It is.
The Lions would be in a really nice position in the NFC if they were able to pull this off. That's why it almost feels too good to be true kind of thing. But, if you look at giving up pick 6 and your 2nd and, your 3rd for Tennessee to move up 5 spots, it's not, it makes sense. They don't want to pay Simmons. It doesn't behoove them to pay Simmons. They're sort of rebuilding. It's just, is the player they like on the board at 3, and we'll see.
That is very interesting. So as we move forward, that's the sort of stuff we'll be discussing. We're also going to be talking about specific prospects, maybe preview some like either by position or round of the draft. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go here, but we'll be talking.
You and I should make a trade happen on live on one of our shows.
I don't think that's as interesting to the audience as it should be.
Fair
enough. All right. That's actually a good point. It's our show. You'll do where's everybody going? Anyways, everybody here is hanging out live. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. The chat, everything makes the show that much better. So we appreciate that. And we will see all of you next week. Peace.